Welcome! It appears as though you've survived your first couple of open string chords and are ready for more. Well, you've come to the right place. Let's learn the C chord and a new notation called the chord arrest. We're going to begin though with the C chord. Contrary to popular belief, the C chord is not found in the Mediterranean, Adriatic, or Dead Sea. It's not even spelled the same. The C, the letter C, refers to a C major chord, which is made up of the notes C, E, and G. For this video, we're not going to go down the rabbit hole of music theory and explain why C, E, and G makes a major chord. We're just going to take Mr. M's word for it on this one. We don't want to bore you to sleep with long, lengthy Hey! Wake up! I said no lengthy explanations today. Anyhow, before we get going and playing some chords, let's review how to read a chord chart, as this is going to prove very useful when learning different chords on the guitar. A chord chart is a visual way of showing us which strings we will be playing, what frets we are using, and which fingers we need, all in a fun and compact grid. Oh my. Each of the 6 vertical lines on this represent a string, starting with the thickest and lowest one on the left and progressing to thinner and higher pitched ones on the right. The order going from the left is as follows: E, your low E, then A, D, G, B like a boy, and finally at the top on the right is the high E string that we've played on the most. The horizontal lines represent the frets, and the thick line at the very top of our chord chart represents the nut. A circle or 0 is used to represent an open string, and if a string is not to be played for the chord, it's represented with an X. When the note is played on a fret, it will have a little black dot on the fret you're supposed to play, as well as the finger number representing which finger you're going to use to play that particular note. Ready to give it a try? Let's look at an example of our 3-note C chord. You can see that in this particular chord, we will not be using the low E, A, or D strings. We will be playing open G, first fret on your B string with your first finger, and your open E string. We can also represent this chord by notating it on our musical staff, which would look like this. No matter which way you read it, it will sound just like this. Now, if you're up for a challenge and you want to go above and beyond, here's the chord chart for our full first position C major chord. As you can see when looking at this, we're not going to use our low E string as it is represented with an X. Then, in order, going from lowest string to highest string, we will use our third finger on the third fret of A string, second finger on the second fret of your D string, open G, first fret with first finger on your B string, and finally open E. If you play this chord, it will sound like this. If that was a bit much, that's okay. Stick with the 3-note C chord for now. If you just got swept up in a sea of fingerings, then it's a bit much. Sea of fingerings in the C chord. C. Oh, dad jokes. Now, if you're an astute watcher of this video, you may have noticed that below the full C major chord chart, it said the pitches of each of the notes that you're playing when you put your fingers on the frets. You also probably noticed, if you're that smart, that they were all C, E, or G. That is because, as I said before, the C major chord only contains these 3 notes. So, whether you're playing a 3-note C chord or a full chord, you can play this anytime you see just a C notated above a piece of music that's indicating a C major chord. Either of these chords will fit the bill, well, at least for now. Of course, it always gets more complicated later on, but this is a good place to start. Finally, let's talk chord arrest. A rest, as you may have surmised, is a form of not making sound, or in other words, silence. A chord arrest looks kinda weird if we're honest with ourselves and tells us not to make a sound for the same amount of time as a quarter note. Let's try practicing some chord arrests. Oh, that was pretty good. I didn't hear anything. You're all professionals at not making sound. At least I hope so. Before we go, let's take a look at one example just to make sure we have this quarter note business down. In this measure, we have a chord arrest on beat 1, 2 quarter notes on beats 2 and 3, and finally a rest on beat 4. That means we will be playing only on 2 and 3 and resting to make a silence on the others. Here's what that would sound like if we were counting and playing. 1, 2, ready, play. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, pretty easy, right? We have 2 ways to play our new C chord, and we can count quarter rests like a boss. That means it's time to retreat to our practice corner and give it a go and get better. As always, I wish you the best of luck and happy practicing.